Facebook. Hey YouTube. Hope you guys are good.
Yes.
Welcome.
There's a lot to talk about today.
Yeah. How are we gonna put it on?
Pin the comment. So it's.
Okay. So
Hi Chica. Good to see you, my lovely.
Effects of
So the effects of the man cave and autopilot. That's what we're going to be discussing today, and both of those two items fall within our communication series, and that's really what you've been listening to. It's been the communication series, which is the art of communication. It's lovely to see you guys on here with us. We have a whole lot to talk about today. We don't want to rush the man cave and the autopilot series, so as you can see, every week we come back with just a new layer to it, because it does cut deep. It has a whole lot that it affects. So hey,
100%.
how you doing, Florence? Good to see you on here. It's important that we really just take our time and go through this, but hold on to your socks, because today we've got more to cover. So I don't want to go into too much detail before we've even started. So Ulrich's just going to check that we are live on Facebook and live on YouTube, and that everyone can hear us okay, and that everything's working, and then we'll dive in because there's a lot to cover. So hope you guys have had a fantastic weekend, bank holiday. There was a bit of sun, bit of rain, bit of hailstones today. It's just been a whole lot of stuff. So hope you guys have had a great weekend. Let us know what you got up to. We had a really nice family orientated weekend. We got to go to Peppa Pig Land and it was a lot of fun. The kids really enjoyed it, and yeah, we're looking into so much more. Hey Lex, hey Kizzy, good to see you on here, guys. Wonderful to have you with us. We have so much that we're going to be discussing today. We're talking about the man cave. We're talking about autopilot. We are talking about how it affects relationships, how it affects being a parent, how it affects being a husband, being a wife, being a sibling, being a spouse, being a partner. There's just so much in it. So definitely stay with us, guys. We've been covering the series of the art of communication, and within that we've just been going into so many different areas, and communication, it's like the key in any relationship for it to be successful. So we're just checking that we're good
Almost there.
YouTube and good on Facebook, and then we're going to kick off. So let us know, guys, have you experienced the man cave? Have you experienced autopilot? And should I give a rough synopsis?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Okay, so for those who don't know, basically man cave is where guys tend to go when they have a situation that they're processing and they're not quite sure of how to arrive at a conclusion. So usually it happens when an external pressure enters into a situation. So you lose your job, or a really close family member passes away, or someone's sick, like things that are outside of your control, and now you have to process how to deal with this.
Yeah.
So effectively, a lot of the time people find that they don't feel that they can speak and express how they're processing or how they're feeling or what the effect is. So often they kind of retreat and they become quite insular. And yeah, hi, how's it going? Good to see you on here. And then yeah, basically they retreat, and unfortunately that retreat can last several hours, several days, and then it can kind of get into other places where it affects marriage and communication, or relationships and communication. Vice versa, when a woman goes on autopilot, generally it comes when situations are outside of their control, or there's a high demand for her to be stretched quite thin. There's lots going on, so she has to, get kids ready, get school ready, get work ready. When you have lots of spinning plates and you're trying to keep all of them floating at the same time without any of them
100%.
breaking, you often find yourself not communicating how you're feeling, or not dealing with or spending time on self-care, a lot of those things go out the window. And then what ends up happening is you kind of get into an urgent must just complete this and get through another day, and then a lot of you starts to slip away, and then you start getting into I just need to complete this. And then before you know it, you're just on autopilot. You are disengaged.
It's like task oriented.
Exactly. You're just task orientated, task focused, and that's it. So are we good?
We are good.
Lovely. So we're good on
Wonderful.
Facebook. We're good on YouTube. Hi guys. Lovely to see you with us. It's another week of us discussing the effects of the man cave and autopilot, and all of that is within the series of
The art of communication.
So we're going to start.
Good evening, guys. Hope you guys are well. Thank you guys for joining us. As Siobhan has so eloquently introduced what we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks, it's been amazing. The feedback has been great.
Yes, it has.
But we are always careful to make sure that we introduce ourselves, because there might be some of you that might be watching this live, or you might be watching this on a rebroadcast, and you don't know who these handsome and beautiful people that are on your screen are. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Ulrich.
And I'm Siobhan.
And you've tuned into To Love Collective, where we believe in believing in love again.
That's right.
And our premise is literally this: wherever you are in any of your relationships, whether romantic, whether siblings, whatever relationship you're in, there's always room for you to believe in love again.
That's
and
right.
take that relationship to another level. Even if everything is good.
Yeah.
Even if everything is perfect and you feel like you are living the life, your best life, there's always room for us to believe in love again.
Absolutely, absolutely. So today we are discussing the effects of the man cave and autopilot.
Effects. I mean, we've kind of touched on some of them, like as we've been talking about it, but I think this time we're just kind of going to be a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some real things that we've both experienced. As well as some things that we've, heard other people who have been in similar positions, how they have felt, and hopefully it will give you guys some sort of
some nuggets,
some value
tools.
just for the future and stuff like that. So
hey,
join with us.
Yes. So
do you want to kick off?
Yeah, so one of the things that Ulrich and I were talking about when we were discussing the effects of the man cave and autopilot is you don't actually always realize what you're doing when you're in the man cave or when you're in your autopilot. You are just going through the motions. However, people on the outside feel the effects of how you are processing. So prime example, if you've had a great day and you come in and all you want to do is talk to the person about what has taken place in your great day, if they are in their man cave experience or their autopilot, you speaking to them can feel like it's just going way over their head. It's going in one ear and out the other. Like they're in the room but they're not listening. They're not actively listening. They're not even participating. You know, like when you're telling someone something and they go yeah, you're not even getting that. You know, when you feel like I'm not even getting affirmation that you're actually hearing what I'm saying. And quite often that can leave someone feeling quite dejected. They can feel quite unappreciated or just unheard, unlistened to. And those are the things that now start to whisper other things in your ear. Almost like, so is it because you're not listening because your attention is elsewhere? Is somebody else in the picture? And then you start questioning things that you have no business questioning, because you know this person is for you, but automatically you start going to a place of, well,
dangerous ground.
What's going on here? Why are they not paying attention or even listening or even...
You begin thinking that it's your fault.
Exactly.
That you've done something wrong.
Exactly.
It becomes insular.
Yes, and then you start internalizing. That's a good word. You start internalizing, is it me? Is it something I said? Is it something I did? Is it something I wore? Is it something I forgot to do? And it's got nothing to do with you. This person is processing, but in their processing, they're now making you feel.
And that's why the number one effect is low self-esteem?
Now, the low self-esteem that comes from being in a man cave or autopilot actually has a double fallout. So the person who's processing, the person who's on the autopilot, they are naturally feeling low self-esteem because they're outside of their control point. They're outside of their ability to manage a situation. So they're starting to question their abilities, question other things. They're questioning if they have what it takes to get through, to navigate, to just deal with the situation.
Yeah.
And naturally, that leads them into a spiraling place of low self-esteem. But the problem is that when they're feeling low self-esteem, the environment that is now being created by not listening or not appreciating or not spending time or not being present in the room has a knock-on effect to create low self-esteem
Exactly.
on the person.
Yeah. It's
Who
like
is-
a double effect.
Exactly. And then you have two people now feeling low self-esteem. And what happens when you feel that you're not being appreciated or you're feeling low self-esteem or something like that? You want it more from the other person. You want this person to now build you up in that area.
And when they don't,
Exactly.
there's resentment and anger and frustration, and then it's just volcano eruptions.
Conflict. It's just... And then it's like, how did we get here? Well, you didn't say this about what I did to my hair. Well, you didn't pick up this. Well, you didn't even say thank you. Well, and you're in a whole new place. And you're just like, how are we arguing about something so trivial, something so small, which wouldn't usually cause an argument?
That's right.
But it's because you're already feeling like, well, you've been ignoring me all day. Well, you've been short with me. And it's not even about you. I'm still processing. And then before you know it, it's just like, okay, how do we manage these conflicts? Hey.
So guys, that is, you know, as Siobhan is speaking, you can see me smiling and she's smiling because this is a place where we have been
Yes.
multiple
Times.
and we are still learning. You know what I mean? We're not even trying to be like where we have perfected everything.
No.
We're sharing our experiences. We're sharing our flaws in some ways because I think in this generation we need people to share when they're going through the process.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we want to master something before we can teach something. But
Yeah.
sometimes there's power in teaching whilst you're still going through.
Come on.
Because when we look at scripture, we know that Moses had an issue with anger. Do you understand? And so it paints the picture that, look, you may not necessarily have everything together,
Yeah.
but it's important to share that process. Do you understand? And to see that process as it's going.
Yeah.
So we're here, and I think one of the things that we've learned is that when we get to that place, it doesn't feel nice.
No.
And sometimes we don't even always realize
Yeah.
that we're there. And I think this is the most important part that we've realized is that we have to understand where each other are at, because failure to understand where you're at causes even more eruption,
Yes.
and it causes even more conflict, because what we've had to do in times past is we've just had to say, okay, cool, so what's really going on?
Yeah.
Do you understand? And I think for me, it's been very difficult to communicate what's going on, especially when I don't know what's going on.
Woo.
Do you understand? And we mentioned it a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so important to it's almost like you've got to, you're in your feelings,
Yeah.
but you have to almost figure out a way of working out what the source is.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. We're not trying to say that, you know, just get it together. It's something sometimes that you have to do together.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because there's certain times where I don't even know what's going on with me, and Siobhan will just pick it up and say, well, I think da 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 da. And sometimes when she says it, I'm vexed because she's able to see it and I haven't been able to even get to that conclusion myself. So I'm vexed and I'm just like, And sometimes it's gone into another argument.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because the pride is just rising up and it's just like, no, that's not it. You know, trying to cover it up. But really, it was that. So it's low self-esteem is a big one because, you know, you just feel like crap. You feel like rubbish and you both feel like rubbish.
Yeah.
And you're in a place where there's almost like a failure to see the other person's hurt. Like you don't want to see that.
Yeah.
You don't even want to, not even that you don't want to see it. You don't want to deal with the other person's hurt because you're hurt.
Yeah.
You're in a place. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it's in this time where communication is key because if you don't talk, like Siobhan rightly said, the enemy begins to whisper.
Absolutely.
And so old habits start coming back.
Yeah.
Or ways of dealing or de-stressing, which are not good.
Yes, the escapisms
begin to come in.
That's right.
And do you know what I mean? Before you know it, you're in a
completely different place. In a place you really shouldn't be. You've got no business being. And I love what you said. Just going back to what you said about when you get angry. But before I say that, I just want to say, honestly, Shai, you are absolutely right. As women, it's like we have a sixth sense. It's like we pick things up. And we pick things up that are unsaid, but it's like we read situations, we read responses, tones, all of these different things. They have a knock-on effect. But because we are, so let's say it's a man cave moment, because you're outside of the picture, you're looking at it from all angles, because you're looking at it from outside, you're looking at it from you can relay it, you're looking at it from outside the box, whereas when someone's in the motions, they can only see it almost like a tunnel vision. So it's difficult now for them to actually see the wider picture or see actually how different things have affected, or actually you were fine up until this comment here. And then your whole attitude just switched. Oh my God. And then we arrived here. But just going back to what you said, Ulrich, about teaching and sharing when you're in the midst of your process. So it's not always that when you get to the end point that you can actually give the explanations and show how you've come through and so on and so on. And quite often when you've come through it, you don't always remember what took place, what the turning point was. You just know you got out of it. And so, like, when some people come to ask you, oh, so how did you navigate through these things? You're not always able to really share some of the nuggets because you're not there anymore. You're like time has passed. But a lot of the time, it's either best to document what you've been doing whilst you're in it. So whilst you're in, like, when someone says to you, how did you get over forgiveness? How did you forgive? Now that's a deep experience.
It's hard.
And it's not always easy to put into words exactly the steps that you took. But when you're documenting, when you're writing down, when you're giving testimonies, or when you're writing letters to God, or when you're writing it to yourself, these are the things that you share as nuggets with others. And it's concrete of, I did this and I did this, and don't do that because that definitely is not going to help. But these are the things that really help you get through stuff. So what I would say is, when you do come out of a man cave situation, when you do come out of an autopilot season, definitely document it. Whilst you're in the middle of it, document it, because there are other people who will come to you who are a little less further down the road travelled. So we've been married 10 years, but there are people who are experiencing some of the things that we experienced in our year 4, or whilst we were still dating and things like that. So us sharing with them is a blessing. It's an honour. But at the same time, for someone who is in the situation, they're not always going to know how to navigate through it. So always be open, basically, to share those experiences.
100%. And I think having that understanding as well, like, where at whatever point you are in your marriage
or relationship,
like at the beginning, just kind of committing to saying, okay, cool, well, when we get to this place, let's, after we've cooled down and after we've calmed down,
Yeah.
because for
You
us
need
it's
to.
like I mean, we're a bit better now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? After we had a heated out and we went to actually talk and just be
Yes.
like, all right, cool.
The recovery, the makeup time is real good.
It's definitely
It's
less.
short. Yes. It's nice and short now.
But it won't always be that way for some of you.
Yeah.
But I think it's just the both of you just kind of being committed to understanding that, look, your most important task is to make sure that you understand the other person,
Yes.
understand their perspective, understand
Yeah.
where they're coming from, because
Yeah.
until you can really fully do that, you won't fully understand.
Absolutely.
And again, like we always say, marriage or any type of relationship, marriage is for mature people.
Absolutely.
So to get to a place of understanding that and walking in that, it just takes a level of humility and kind of selflessness to stop thinking about yourself and how you feel and what you want, but actually being ready to now say, okay, cool, what's going on with you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Because clearly there's an issue here.
Definitely.
So cool. So the second one, I would say, another one that we've experienced as well, is depression.
Ooh.
Is definitely an effect of Man Cave and Autopilot, because depression is a very dangerous one, because it's almost like you lose the will to do anything.
Yeah.
Because you're at a place where you either don't know what to do, or you don't want to be told what to do, or you've been told what to do but you don't want to do what you've been told to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes, which was kind of in my case, was that because of how I believe that God was I know God was processing me, the solutions that I was being given, although they were the right thing to do, they weren't what God wanted me to do. Do you understand?
And that's a hard
And
one.
that is very hard, because then it feels like the whole world is against you.
Yeah.
And nobody is on your side.
Yeah.
And so your position now is, I have to just trust. I have to just trust and believe and just know that, well, if I'm hearing God correctly, if I'm hearing what I'm hearing, then I'm just gonna go with it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not be, taken back by what other people are saying.
Yeah.
But it can take you into a place of depression, because
can.
you do feel like, you've got no friends. Nobody's got your back.
Yeah.
The people who you expected to have your back or just to be there, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean, are not there. And sometimes even the people that you expect to be there, are joining with everybody else,
Yeah.
and saying, this is what you must do, and da 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 da. And it can definitely spiral.
Yeah, and it can be painful. But I think more than anything, and Shai, I want to come to your question in just a second. But I feel like depression in marriage or in relationships is real. And in the last 2 years, I would say people all over the world know and have felt and have experienced or tasted an ounce of depression in some way, shape or form.
100%.
Whether it's with not being able to see loved ones, whether it's not being able to go to the places they want to go, whether it's with finance, whether it's with jobs, losses or cutbacks, whether it's with the uncertainty of what will happen, whether it's just with the coronavirus and the fear of what may happen if they catch it or don't catch it, and with family members passing away and being lost and things like that. There are so many different ways that people have experienced depression over the last few years, and depression in marriage and in relationships is real. And it is very difficult for the person who's not in that place of depression to keep everything afloat, to keep everything from falling apart. And it's crazy. I feel like let's say person A is in depression, person B is running point guard to make sure they are not upsetting the person who is dealing with it, but also making sure the child that's in that scenario isn't getting into trouble for the smallest of things. Because at the end of the day, when you're processing, you might have a short attention span, or you might have a shorter temper, or less patience. You snap easily. So here's a child, and they may just run in the room a bit too loud
at the wrong time. How many times have I told you?
And before you know it, there's all kinds of tension that's rising up in the house, and it's like, okay, you're literally, okay, play over here, play some Lego.
You become the rescuer.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? You're just like
perfect
catching them before they fall.
Yeah,
bro.
catching everyone. Like, you have a pillow, you have a pillow, you have a pillow. You get wrapped, because at the end of the day, you're trying to keep the peace. You're trying to keep the house in order, even though it's out of order. It's
100.
out of a functioning order that it should be, because there is hurt being experienced, and there's nothing worse than when hurt is being experienced and you've never been there before, so you don't know how long you're going to be in this situation. You don't know how you're going to even react to these things, but yet you have to now live it out, and there's not always the avenue to discuss it with people. But just coming back to Shida's question.
Yeah.
Hey Arls, hey Debs. So love this question. Do you guys have a rule with how many days you take to deal with the issue? Now, earlier in our marriage, sometimes it would take a few days. I'm not even gonna lie. It would take a few days. And I specifically remember us talking about how long it takes us to come back and resolve, and who is the person who initiates it. Because if you feel like you're always the person who initiates the let's come back together to talk, let's try to resolve, so on and so on, that can have a whole new level of an effect. Hey!
Yeah, that was us, boy.
Yeah. And
Siobhan would always be the one who would say, can we talk?
and
she
then,
used to get vexed.
Yeah. I would get extremely
because for me,
upset.
because obviously, as you guys know, like, forgiveness was my thing, right? So I found it so difficult to let go. And I think at the beginning of our marriage, it was very much, well, it's your fault. If you didn't do that, then we wouldn't be here. So why should I make peace? Do you know what I mean? And it was like that for a while. It was very prideful. But
yeah.
But we got through. We got through.
I know. But
we got through.
Like, the issue was that in us processing and learning how to communicate with each other, we actually had to get to the stage where it would be like, okay, we need to make up a whole lot faster than this. We can't be falling out for days on end. We can't be experiencing like 2 or 3 days going by when we're still upset with each other over something. It's not productive. It's not healthy. And one thing that Ulrich and I said to each other is, we're not going to sleep in separate beds. We're not going to sleep in separate rooms. We're not going to do anything like that. So we have to lay down next to each other that night, even if we're not seeing eye to eye over an issue.
100%.
And because we always the one to help me come, maybe.
Well,
but also because we work with each other for so many different things.
Yeah, we have no choice.
We don't have the luxury, I'd say, for some people,
Yeah.
where they can go the whole day and not.
Continue. We'll come back to Ali.
So we don't have the luxury of not speaking to each other, because we have decisions to make on Gmix, we have decisions to make on Two Love, we have decisions to make on church.
But then you say that, but then there's been times where we've been vexed at each other and we still operate.
Yes, that's very true.
And we still operate, because at the end of the day,
Those
we need
things
to get
done.
It's like we both go into autopilot, and
Yeah.
we're just like, look, this just needs to get pinned up here,
Yeah.
and we need to finish what we're doing, and then we come back to it.
So who's putting the boys to bed? You putting
Right,
am I
exactly.
putting Cyrus to bed?
Exactly.
Or are you putting Cyrus?
Because
to
life
bed?
goes on.
And then it's like this. Yeah, I'll put him to bed.
Exactly.
And you're still upset.
You're vexed, man.
The issue is not resolved, but you have to function. There are things that need to be done.
I think that's the word. It's like when all of this is going on, you still have to be able to function.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think the issue is when you allow the function to go too long and you don't come back. And sometimes coming back to it, it's a real thing. There's an element of fear because sometimes you don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, because it goes back down to something that, you know, Siobhan and I were talking about today in terms of what we're going to be talking about next week, which is
Life goes on, you know. Honesty.
Yeah, honesty. How honest can you be?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I know for me, because like I think when we were kind of like in year 4 or 5, we were still kind of developing our ability to be honest with each other.
Yeah.
And so there are some truths that I want to say.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to how do I tell my wife that...
Are you going into next week's session?
No,
because
I'm
I
not.
feel like you're going into next week's session.
I'm sorry. Like how real can I be? So there's that element of it as well. So it's like there's so many things to balance, and I think again it takes maturity. It takes maturity and it takes time as well.
It does.
So alright guys, so I want you to just do. Oh yeah, 100%. That's coming. When you talk about it, I just want to. Oh, fully. Trust me. I'll go in, man. I'll go in. It's easy to operate cold. Yes, that functional stuff has to happen. Otherwise, the whole thing collapses. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And this is it. We have to just be very mindful of it.
Of how long we allow the functional to go on. Because like what Shida has asked, do you have a rule of how long you need to make up? Now, it depends on what is said and how deep it is cut. Because at the end of the day, people need the time to process, and you need to be understanding that if something has hurt them and has cut them really deep, it's cut them really deep, and you need to give them the time.
No, 100%.
And I know there are times when I've said something to Ulrich, and so I remember recently Ulrich and I had a falling out. It was, hey Stace, it was probably back in like March, but this falling out was so deep that we fell out, we made up, but we still weren't made up. And then it got into like 2 or 3 days, and then we got into a fallout about something completely different. And what came out of Ulrich's mouth was anger and words that were linked with the argument from 3 or 4 days before. So I could already see this doesn't belong here in this discussion. This is not part of this argument. This is from 2 or 3 days before.
Yeah, because it wasn't quite complete. We hadn't quite cleared the air. And sometimes
we had cleared the air,
no, but this
he
is it.
Still had it lingering in there.
Yeah, because sometimes when you resolve something, or when you attempt to resolve something, like you have to also be in a place to kind of be like, and this is where the honesty comes from, because sometimes you're kind of like, okay, cool, yeah, I hear what you're saying, you know, as your kind of either justification or your explanation as to why, you know, this happened or blah blah blah. Yeah. But then sometimes it's just like,
and another thing, I still got more to say.
No, it's more, am I convinced of it?
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, am I okay with what you have said? And sometimes it's like, okay, yeah, cool, whatever, let's just keep it moving. Do you know what I'm saying? Let me, you know, because that's where we came up with the whole, you know, forgive quickly.
Yeah.
Because for us, we don't allow it to go more than a day.
Yeah.
Even a couple of hours. You know, it might be a couple of hours, whatever, but it can't go past a day. Do you understand?
Yeah.
We just need to come together, and we just, because I think that was it. Once Siobhan said it a number of times, you know, that, you know, she was always the one who was coming and, you know, make peace and all that kind of stuff. It made me start thinking about like how I value our connection. Because sometimes it's like when you argue, you're disconnected.
Yeah.
As much as you think you're not. You're disconnected.
You are definitely disconnected.
And it's almost like I properly had to sit down with that and just be like, well, we know that in order for us to operate at our maximum capacity, we have to be connected. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, when we're disconnected, it affects so many other things. Do you understand? So it's like, once we kind of realize that, that's when we're kind of like, okay, cool. So we can argue, be angry at each other, whatever. But in the back of our minds, we're kind of like, okay, cool. How do we get back?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
And that has to be the desire. Can we join in a video?
Mighty God. Jeez. Do you want to come on? Is that what you're saying? You want to come on chat? I don't mind, Let's do it. Let's do it.
Just let us know, guys. Let us know if you want to come in and join this conversation. If you want to join in, because I feel like
please,
there's something that needs to be said. And
definitely.
This is a husband and wife, but let's see what you guys are saying. But I would honestly say that with Ulrich and I, we had to get to the stage. Do you know, it communicates something when the person wants to make up.
Yeah.
And it also communicates something when the person doesn't make steps to come to make up.
It's almost like they want it. Because for me, they were like, I'll put my hands up. I wanted to wallow in it. Like, for whatever reason, it sounds mad. Put your hand up if you can testify, if you're willing to be that honest. But certain times, it's almost like you got an enjoyment of just being like with each other.
And it's crazy. I don't know where that has come from.
Like, I don't want to just make up. It's just like, I'm upset with you, and that's that.
And in my head, I'm just like, I've got no time for this, I've got no time for this. How long are you going to be here? Because I'm ready for us to make up now. Are you ready? Okay, you're not ready? Okay. How about now? Like, that's me. But, so, hold on. I heard a message called, and then what? So you argue, and then what? So you stop talking, and then what? You get even more upset, and then what? etc. Each step takes you further away from each other. Brilliant.
100%.
Brilliant.
But
it does. It takes you further away from each other. And I feel like okay, so I'll be completely honest. And I shared this with Ulrich. I said, when I don't feel you coming to make up, I don't feel like you want it. It's almost like when you dress up really nice and someone pays you a compliment, or your husband pays you a compliment, or you wear something and you make an effort and you feel that compliment, it's almost exactly the same when you don't feel like the person wants to come to make up. For me, having Ulrich come to me to want to make up made me feel pursued, made me feel desired, made me feel wanted. When he would be like, I'd be like, so hold on a minute.
Just want to be upset, man.
It's been almost a night and you haven't felt like you want to make up yet. Okay. So I had to communicate that to Ulrich as well, to say, do you know what?
But I think that's hard though. I think it's hard for guys to do that.
To do what?
Like to be in that place. Because it's quite an emotional thing, isn't it?
But it's not an emotion, I think.
But it is to say, oh babes, I want to make up. Like, that feels really weird.
No, but you don't have to say it like that. But you have to say, can we talk? Because that initiating. Okay, cool. So let's try to.
Once upon a time, that was weird.
Resolve this. Let's try to get to. Once upon a time, that was weird.
It's true. It felt weird.
No, because at the end of the day, it's always now when it's always one person feeling like they are pursuing the peace.
Yeah, it's true.
It just sends a mad.
No, it's true.
Not nice.
You're right.
It's just not nice. Hey, Keon.
I feel that.
I definitely hear you. But just going back to what we were saying before, I think that there are effects of this man cave, this autopilot, that we know
Yeah.
that we've experienced, and I'm sure you guys have experienced it already. But the point is, like what Arlene said, you go through these things, but what's your plan
Yeah.
of coming back together? So like Shida has asked, have you set a rule? And maybe if you haven't set a rule, maybe it's best that you start setting a rule to say, listen, the Bible says that don't let the sun go down on your wrath.
Yeah.
Now that scripture right there, I am never going to be one to tell anybody don't follow scripture. Never going to be the person to do that.
Brethren.
However, Ulrich and I, we have found a lot of the times, if we fall out in the nighttime, like if we fall out just before bedtime, it's going to be hard for us to not let the sun go down on our wrath, because we're already in that place. So a lot of the times we may need to sleep on it and wake up in the morning with fresh ears, fresh perspective, and then talk or then resolve it. But I guess the purpose of that scripture for us is don't leave it days and days and days where you guys don't resolve this issue.
Yeah.
Make it your effort, your desire to get back on the good terms with each other, get back on the good ground, get back into connection. Disconnection and that disjointed experience, that's not something to that's not a place to stay.
Yeah.
That is it's a temporary spot, but it's not a place of dwelling. No.
Definitely. So I would say, so what we got now? So we've had low self-esteem.
Yeah.
We've had depression.
Yeah.
And I'd say the third one would be, oh man, I just had it in my head, you know. Fear. But you have to remember, before you were husband and wife, you are brother and sister in Christ.
That's
forget
right.
the emotion. If you have a sister and there is an out, you have to swear out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But in that moment, she ain't a sister.
She's an enemy.
Exactly. Do you understand? And that emotion is very real. Because when you're beefing,
hurt, pain,
she becomes someone else.
See?
I'm sorry, but
I think that this is just too much like Game of Thrones. It's like she becomes someone else.
No, but it's real though, because when we disagree or when particular things happen, you know, as human beings, we're upset. Do you understand what I'm saying? And there's certain things that Siobhan's done, and it's upset me, and I'm vexed. And the emotion of being vexed is that you don't like the person. In that moment, you don't like them. They're horrible.
No, it's not that you don't like them. You don't like the thing.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But in that moment, it's just like...
You don't like the thing. It's not that you don't like the person.
Not the person, but the thing that they've done. But at the end of the day, the reason why the voices increase and emotions run wild is because whatever that person has done or have not done has upset you.
Yes.
Do you understand? So in that moment of, you know, not hearing where they're coming from, she's not a sister where you're gonna be like, oh sis, come, let me no. That's not real. And if it is, then I want to drink your water. I want to drink whatever diet you're on. I want to go on your 10k runs, and you know what I mean. I'll do whatever you do to get that level. But I just think, in reality, do you know what I mean? When you're in that argument with your spouse, sometimes it's very difficult to always come back and say, you know what I mean. And I think the reason why we're kind of at that place now, again, has been because of time and maturity.
Yeah, and we've been through so
and we've
much.
got to know each other, and we've gone through the worst that any couple can go through. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not any couple can go through, but the worst that we could go through. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
what I would say is, on a side note, so one of the things we have to remember is the people who are closest to you know how to hurt us the worst and the most.
100%.
And it's not that they go out to do it intentionally. If they do, then on a next bad mind if they need some help. But the point of it is that your desire shouldn't be to inflict pain on the ones you love. Your desire should be to lift them up, to encourage them. But in your two becoming one, in your iron sharpening iron, in your teeth and tongue, unfortunately, sometimes it will end up that you guys get into the conflict. But it's how you navigate and manage through it. And I think 100%. This is what Kizzy's saying. So I think it's important to address that emotion, because if you try to suppress that feeling of being upset, hurt, it will eventually make an appearance. Definitely. 100. You have to address it.
And it's crazy, because even when we first got married, Siobhan was very afraid of conflict.
Oh, God.
She hated it. She didn't want to argue. She didn't want to talk about... She didn't want to have any kind of heated discussion. And for me, I'm just like, look, let's air it out. Let's get the emotion out. Because once it's out, it's done. And then we can move on. So we had some...
comment. Back to back ministry.
Was like, I really do hear you. I've been there in my head. My bad. Oh wow. Approaching 25 years, I've done it all, including back to 100.
Yeah, the back to back ministry. Like, you got to get through the night, and you just got to sleep back to back.
Yeah, just make sure when they tap you in the night, you can turn around. That's the key. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't. Yeah, there was a video. It was so mad. I don't know if you guys have seen it about the African couple who were having an argument, and they had a really, really bad argument. I think the guy wouldn't let the wife see what was on her phone and all that kind of stuff, and then they went to bed angry, and she had an asthma attack in the middle of the night, was tapping the husband. Husband just shrugged her off, and then he woke up, went to work, came back, and she was gone.
She passed.
Yeah, man. So it's a massive lesson. Massive lesson about, as much as you're angry, just remember that, she is still, or he is still
the one that you love. You should always be ready to try to resolve. And I think that when you're hurting, that sounds like, boy, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not ready to talk about this. I need more space. I need more time. But if the person has come to you, even if you're not ready, you need to be able to hear them out, because it may add a new perspective. It may add a new layer of understanding, or it may help you to process a bit better. And there are times when Ulrich and I have tried to come back together, and the argument has just flipped on its head, and it has just reignited, and it was too soon, and we got to come back again a bit later. We got to calm down and leave it there.
And a lot of times it's literally because we have what we think, and we're not willing to let that go. And a lot of the time it's because the other person doesn't see it. And a lot of times it's not even that they don't see it, it's that they don't demonstrate that they've seen it.
So they've heard you, but they haven't actually acknowledged. To say, I hear what you're saying, and or they haven't apologized. Now, if the person has not apologized, you need to be able to move on without receiving that apology. And hey, I know there are plenty of times when I've said to Ulrich, no, but really and truly right here, you should be apologizing because X, Y, and Z. And Ulrich would be like,
I ain't apologizing. What am I apologizing for? There's nothing to apologize for.
And
just take it on the chin.
Yeah, but here's the joke. I could now be like, what do you mean you're not apologizing? And get into a whole new thing. But actually, well, we need to move on. And one of the biggest things about forgiveness and processing and letting things go is even if you don't get the apology from the person, even if they don't own what they've done in the situation, you need to be able to move past it. You actually need to be able to forgive and move on.
Nah, man, you gotta deal with it, guys.
It's difficult.
It's difficult to move on, especially with your spouse. If it's other people external to your relationship, then yes, do you understand? But when it's your spouse, I think it's your responsibility, or our responsibility, to make sure that we understand where the apology is needed, because sometimes I may not understand why the apology is needed, but the fact that she's expressed that this is an apologetic moment.
Yeah.
And when she did express that to me, I had to go away and actually think about what happened, what I said, and why she would even feel like I need to apologize. And again, this is what I'm saying. It's like, this is why it's important to communicate your point and your place, because sometimes, you know, marriage, they always say that marriage is a mirror. Do you understand? The person's always there to kind of show yourself.
Yeah.
And so for you not to communicate and not to, in some ways, you know, share that truth, the other person may not be able to see their own flaws.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And many a time Siobhan has held that mirror up to me, and I've kind of just been like, okay, cool. And I've come back and I've, you know, apologized and keep it moving. So I wouldn't even prescribe, you know, forgiving your spouse without an apology. I wouldn't.
It depends on the person. It depends on the person and the situation.
It's true.
Because there are plenty of times where, even if you, so there was a situation where Orica's adamant, I don't see that as being wrong. So there's not an apology that's going to follow after this, because this here was not incorrect. Now, that's his opinion. In my opinion, no, that's not correct. But it comes down to a number of factors: how you've been brought up, how you've been raised, what your expectation was of that situation, where you were coming from, all of those different things. So what are you going to do? Are you going to hold it up and have it as a, well, you didn't do this, and have your long list of their rights and their wrongs? Or do you actually say, no, I have more to deal with than the price of this sorry? I need to process and move on, and I need to be able to forgive. I think in maturity, you need to be able to forgive someone whether they've said sorry or not. So when you get the sorry, that's a bonus. If you don't get the sorry, you need to be able to keep it moving, because at the end of the day, you want to keep the peace. I'm not saying that you allow your spouse to continually get away with not saying sorry. No, but in some instances, it's just not worth it. And it is better for you to say, okay, cool, that's how you see it. You can't resolve every issue like that, but you need to be able to get to some times where you just say, okay, do you know what? And I don't like that we're going to agree to disagree. Okay, cool. I know in this situation here, it wasn't handled the best. But if the person doesn't want to take ownership, it needs to be, okay, cool, how do we move forward? It's a, and then what moment? So what are we going to do now? What are we going to do about this? Because if we're both adamant, this is this and this is that, then that's just it. I love what Arlene's put here though. So tots, so tapping of the shoulder at nighttime can lead to more arguing, or it can lead to the best reconciliation ever. It's your choice. Now, I think that reconciliation is always the desired goal, and consummation at reconciliation is always fantastic, simply because it brings back the unity. And I don't think that just trying to jump into the bed is the answer.
I was just about to say, because just because that happens doesn't mean that nothing is resolved. Because I remember something that TDJ said time ago, like, men are able, like, and this is why this whole topic is so powerful, because men can do the autopilot thing.
Yeah, they can.
We can do the flowers. We can do the, you know, the dinner. We can make the roses, the petals, all about that stuff. But they can be completely switched off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he said something in the He Motions series, and he's like, what about them roses said that he was happy?
Yeah.
He knows how to perform. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's why communication is key,
so
guys.
It's so important.
It's more important than sex.
It is.
Ooh, did I just say that? Yes. It's more important than sex, because at the end of the day, it's like, sex cover for multitude
of things. But at the end of the day, you can be intimate in that area and still walk away.
And still walk away completely
unhappy.
unhappy. And it's just mad. Like for us, it's just like that just doesn't work.
No. And you want to be able to connect properly, but at the same time, you have to be able to read the situation, and you will feel the difference.
100.
Let's be so completely honest. If someone is in it and they're in it with you,
Okay, babe, I think we're going there. It's 18 plus.
okay. But at the end of the day, if they're in it and they're in it with you, you know they're in the moment with you. And when somebody's not in the moment with you, you know they're not in the moment with you.
No, you're absolutely right, Arlene. Not every man operates like that. And
No,
it's
that's
very true. Very, very, very true. Very, very true. But
there are women like that.
Exactly.
There are a number of women like that.
Exactly. But I think you just have to know your spouse. Do you understand? But I think ultimately communication still trumps it all. You
Yeah.
have to communicate
Yeah.
at every point, especially when there's disagreement, especially when there's... Go on.
So next week, guys, we are going to be talking about honesty. Is honesty the best policy? And I was just thinking about what Arlene has just said about I know women that are like that. With regards to what we were just talking about. Intimacy and women and honesty. And when we get into that, we'll talk about it next week.
So on that note, guys, we hope that this broadcast has been of some value to you.
Yes.
So we've been talking about the effects of the man cave and autopilot, and we've talked about what we talked about: low self-esteem, depression,
and
I tried to start fear, but we've just gone somewhere else now. Ooh, what's this?
Sex
clears the communication channels.
See now.
Does it though? Does it though?
Okay.
That's our only question. Does
it?
it really clear it though?
Do we see now? Okay. So
Is that a mandem thing, or is it, what do the ladies think?
do females?
I feel like we just need to do a marriage version and just get onto Zoom and just go in. I feel a marriage conference. I feel a marriage conference in my heart.
Yeah.
But Manfred, you just started something very fiery, bro.
Okay, so sex clears the communication channels. Now
That should be the title.
yeah.
Bro, this is not Clubhouse, This is not Clubhouse. We're not going over an hour tonight. Guys, thank you guys so much.
That definitely opens it up. See, but opens up some things, but I don't know if it opens up everything.
Exactly.
I don't know.
See, this is where it depends on the type of...
Are we getting into next week's session? I really want to talk about it.
No, we're not going there. Nah. Opens every door. Yeah. I'm so done, guys. Sorry, Facebook and YouTube. There's just
some
madness
comments that
going
are coming up. Yeah. He said it helps unclog.
It unblocks the...
Unclogs.
Jesus,
it said opens up. They said it opens up doors.
So we're obviously talking about sex and how, it opens up the lines of communication.
Know your spouse.
There are some people who are in agreement and some people who are not necessarily. But yes, flowing baby.
So honestly, okay, so God. I think we're going to talk about these things next week anyway. But one of the things that I just want to put as a spanner in there, and I think it's not going to be a mic drop, but it's just a spanner. Do we think that our spouses are always honest with us, especially when it comes to comments like the intimacy or the sex actually reopening up that line of communication? So, for example, we were watching a show and there was a male in the show and he thought that he was satisfying his wife or his partner, and the partner was basically like,
Not quite there yet.
there was no
fireworks.
There was no fireworks. So in that same respect, how honest are people in their relationships? So even though you feel like you've had a fallout or you've had a miscommunication and you get in the bed and so on and so on, have you actually rekindled at the same place? Or is it that someone just endured whilst somebody...
Jeez! Surely you can know, but can you? Manfred, can you? Because things can be faked. Noises can be made that give you the appearance. Oh God, the appearance.
See,
it's things I've heard, not what I've
experienced.
But
I love it. Pastor Joel said marriage needs communication on all levels: head, heart, and body. You can't just pick one. You need to have all three.
And I think we're going to end with that.
Fantastic.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. And we will continue this next week, guys.
Jesus. So, guys, join us next week.
Yeah,
we are talking about honesty in marriage. Where are you going?
Where are we going? Who knows? You know, this world is so big, you know.
Good night. Good night. Good night, all. We will see you guys next week, Tuesday. Same time, 9:00, where we'll be talking about honesty. If you're lying or keeping quiet, it's because it's you who are missing out. Go and enjoy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So,
yes.
We will see you guys next week. Honesty is
the best. Is
honesty the best policy?
That's
Same
the one.
Time next week.
Guys, much love. See you later.
Bye.
Later.